I now call the October 3rd, 2017 regular council meeting to order. Would council members please denote your presence by depressing your yes switch? The chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, excuse the absence of Councilwoman Huckabee.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Pacheco, seconded by Councilman Walsh. Please cast your vote.
Maybe we should, does this mean we object?
No. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passes.
Thank you. Council meetings are also televised and can be viewed on cable channel 192. I see some handsome young gentlemen in the audience. I could sure use help with the Pledge of Allegiance. So, do you think you guys could come up with me? Come on up, all the way. You guys can either stand up here or you can come down in front of me, wherever you're comfortable. You ready for this? You guys aren't nervous now, right? You do this all the time? Okay. You guys gonna start us off? Sure. All right, you guys go for it. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nice job. You guys wanna go to
Thank you,
speech?
gentlemen.
All right. Thanks, guys. You rocked.
Is our flag flying at half staff, or is that just federal flags doing that?
I didn't look at the flag outside. It's half. Yes.
So is it against our rules if we had a moment of silence for the people in Las Vegas?
Sure. You lead us off.
I just declare a moment of silence for the injured and the deceased in Las Vegas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the September 19th, 2017 regular council meeting as published in the Casper Star Tribune on September 24th, 2017.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Walsh. Corrections?
I'm calling it a tie.
I think it was. Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passes.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the October 3rd, 2017 bills and claims as audited by the city manager.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Pacheco, seconded by Councilman Morgan. Abstentions? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passes.
Thank you. I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of the rezoning of the former Roosevelt High School property located at 140 East K Street from ED Educational District to C2 General Business. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have two. Exhibit 1 is correspondence from Liz Becker to Carter Napier dated September 11th of this year. And Exhibit 2 is the affidavit of publication in the Star Tribune dated September 18th of this year.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As many of you are aware, this facility is being transitioned, or at least it's being proposed to be transitioned into a hub, if you will, for veteran services. I had the opportunity to go through some discussions with regard to what they have in mind for this facility, and certainly with regard to its current zoning classification. That would not be appropriate for what components can exist with regard to a favorable vote regarding a zone change here at this facility and this address. As you probably have heard, it's anticipated that the plans for this facility will include not only a residential component, but also professional offices as well, and generally speaking, an opportunity to provide services to our veterans, and as well as the opportunity to look at a retail component that might be helpful for the promotion of these efforts and the veterans initiatives. So with regard to that, Madam Mayor, members of the council, it is requested that this zone classification be changed to a C2 general business classification, which would be more accommodating of what the petitioner has in mind for this property.
Thank you. Council will now listen to the public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes, and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I'd ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the issues involving the rezoning to please approach the lectern. Good evening.
Evening. I'm Kim Summerall-Wright. I'm the Executive Director of the Casper Housing Authority. We are the owners of the property and the ones who are going to develop it. Thank you so much for your consideration. I appreciate your time. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of where we are and what the plans are for the facility. Again, there are educational things going on in the building, but that is not the primary use of the facility. When we go in to do a revitalization, and this is our 4th acquisition rehab, we always take a very good look at the neighborhood, what is going on over there, and the Housing Authority, in addition to the Roosevelt School, also owns 32 single-family homes over there. And so we are very familiar with the neighborhood. The idea behind the Roosevelt project, which is going to be called the Landing at Roosevelt, is of course primarily to serve our veterans. We want to provide permanent supportive housing in a place where they can just walk in the door and say, I need help, and there is someone there who can put them on the right road to what they need instead of running all over the place. And I think that's something we all face here in Casper, where we're everywhere, but we thought with our veterans we would appreciate a place where they could just walk in the door. Some of the components of the facility, again, are housing. We will have some commercial services. We do have an anchor tenant already. Interfaith of Natrona County is our anchor tenant. They provide emergency services for everyone who walks in their door, including veterans, and they're there to triage anyone who walks in. We've also discovered in the 8.5 years that we've worked with the VA on the HUD-VASH program that a lot of times veterans need a little bit of time when they come back from wherever they're coming from, or sometimes when they're coming in from a rural community and have not had access to services, that they need some time to get back on their feet. And to help them with that, there are 2 components that we've put into the property that we think are critical, but are also valuable to the neighbors and to the folks that live in North Casper. One of those is the Farmers Co-op building and the community and production gardens that go with that. We've already secured a grow pod that is a high production garden. And we also just learned today that we have a 16 by 30 foot greenhouse that will be going in. So they will be able to grow fresh fruits and vegetables on the campus, not right up against the school, but at a place on the campus that is attractive and will actually make everyone feel like it's a good place to be. Those production gardens, they'll be able to sell that produce in the Farmers Co-op, and we're hoping to see them go into some of our local businesses, our local restaurants, and they'll actually be able to harvest and sell that produce. We are aware that North Casper is a food desert and that there is not enough food over in that area, so that is our plan to help with the neighborhood and help alleviate that problem. When this school was built in 1922, it was built as a community center and a school. And it was supposed to be a property that provided opportunities for the people that live in that area. It has done that for many years. We believe that with our plan, we can turn it around and make it do that again. And so we're very excited about that. The other component that will also be a training facility and that is valuable to the community is that the Casper Housing Authority is running the Habitat for Humanity Restore. That is not a secondhand store in the what you're commonly thinking. What it is a building material store, so that if someone takes out a kitchen and it's still in good condition, we will take that kitchen and sell it at just a really reduced amount of money. And so our hope is that as neighbors see the revitalization on our properties, all 32 across North Casper, and on the Roosevelt campus, that they will be excited to do some things as well, but then they'll have access to the materials that they need to increase the value of their homes. While we probably won't be producing as much traffic as a school would by any means, we do think that it would be very difficult to do all of these things together and under a school zoning, and that's why we're here to request that, so.
Okay, any questions from council? All right, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak in favor? Good evening, sir.
Pat Sweeney, 951 North Kimball. Just a few blocks down is right off of K that I reside. I used to drive by Roosevelt each morning, but with that stretch of K Street torn up right now, it makes it kind of difficult, but I'm totally in favor. I think Mr. Dixon years ago down at the former St. Anthony's had the goal of doing something with our homeless veterans. I think this total plan fits very well into North Casper. I think the food zone, we're in dire need of a grocery store and some services down there. And we've long hoped that something would happen. This might be a step in the right direction. I think any repurposing that we can do with Roosevelt, it kind of was the anchor right there in North Casper for our community and in North Casper. So I would urge you to support this, and of course we applaud our veterans, both on the council and in the audience and in our community. But the need is great for our homeless veterans in particular. So thank you, council.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak in favor? This time, I'd ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the issues involving the rezoning, please approach the lectern. Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? There being no others to speak for or against the issues involving the rezoning, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the ordinance by title only.
An ordinance approving rezoning the former Roosevelt High School property located at 140 East K Street from ED Educational District to C2 General Business.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
You, okay. Moved by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Laird. Discussion. Councilman Pacheco.
Just more of a comment. Again, I just want to echo, obviously, what Mr. Sweeney said. I think it's good for the community. It's good for North Casper. It's good for, more importantly, our veterans. And again, Housing Authority continues to do great work in the community, and they should be recognized and congratulated for the work that they do. And especially Kim, she does a wonderful job. So thank you for your continued support and for this community. So you got a big yes from me.
I think he wants you to give a speech. Okay, we'll let you off the hook. But you do a wonderful job. We're behind you 100%. We're thankful that you're here. Anyone else on this side? Anybody over here? Okay, please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion passes.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of the appeal of the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision to deny a requested zone change of lots 1 through 4, Thomas D. Ross, number 1 edition, located at 802 through 808 North Washington Street from R3, 1 to 4 unit residential, to C2 general business. The chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, continue the public hearing to a regular council meeting to be held on Tuesday, November 7th, 2017 at 6 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hopkins, seconded by Councilman Johnson. Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passes.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of the code text amendment to the Historic Preservation Program. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Yes, Your Honor, I have two. Exhibit 1 is correspondence from Liz Becker to Carter Napier dated September 11th of this year. And Exhibit 2 is the affidavit of publication in the Casper Star-Tribune dated August 28th of this year.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In an effort for our ordinance pertaining to this issue to be more consistent with the State Historic Preservation Office requirements, staff is asking you to consider the opportunity to adjust our ordinances in such a way that they become more consistent with regard to those guidelines and policies that I just addressed. Particularly, we're asking that the issues relating to term limits, removal from the commission and election of officers, and duties of the chairman be made to come into closer conformance with regard to what the state's guidelines are, and positive approval of this should do that for us.
Okay. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes with no duplication of speakers allowed. At this time, I'd ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the issues involving the text amendment to please approach the lectern. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor? Okay, at this time, I'd ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition, please approach the lectern. Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? There being no one to speak for or against the issues involving the text amendment, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the ordinance by title only.
An ordinance amending Section 2.40.050 of the Casper Municipal Code pertaining to the Historic Preservation Program.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Morgan, seconded by Councilman Walsh. Discussion. Amendments? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passes.
Please read the consent ordinance on third reading by title only.
An ordinance to rezone 205 South Minnesota Avenue from R2 one-unit residential to C2 general business.
The chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, at the request of the applicant, table the third reading of the ordinance just read.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Pacheco, seconded by Councilman Hopkins. Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passes.
Please read the consent ordinance on second reading by title only.
An ordinance amending Chapter 17.68 of the Casper Municipal Code pertaining to gaming gambling in the C2 General Business Zoning District.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on second reading the consent ordinance just read.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Morgan. Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passes.
Please read the ordinance on first reading by title only.
An ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the Casper Municipal Code pertaining to resort liquor licenses.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance just read.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Morgan, seconded by Councilman Johnson. Mr. City Manager, report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The ordinance draft before you does one thing, really. It enables ski areas like the Hogadon ski area to receive resort liquor licenses should the council decide to do so, which is consistent with the statutes currently in place. And so with those changes that took place at the state level, the ordinance would need to change as well in order for the two to be consistent. And that's really all that this ordinance does.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reed, come on down. Good evening.
Michael Reed, 1615 Luker Drive here in Casper, 82609. I just have a question and then a comment. In your ordinance, you mark out a lot of things that you had in your ordinance. And the particular item that I'm questioning is D, where a resort liquor license shall not sell alcoholic beverages for consumption off the premise. So if you strike that out and just go to 12401, that isn't covered in 12401. That's covered in 124-404. So are you also going to adopt 124-404 in order to stay consistent with state law?
Mr. City Attorney, I might need your help on that. I'm still trying to get to it on the iPad.
Your Honor, I would note that the language includes specifically that a liquor license shall comply with all applicable Wyoming state statutes as they may be amended from time to time. So I would interpret that to mean the licensee has to comply with any and all liquor statutes, including what Mr. Reed's referring to. So.
Okay.
But you don't say that. So what would be wrong with saying that you comply with all sections of 124-401 through 4? Because not everybody's familiar with state statute. And I'm assuming you're going to put an RFP out for this. And if you just put down one part of the state statute, somebody may not read that. That's just my question.
Sure. No, I think that's a valid question, so I'm still trying to find it.
What are you afraid would happen?
I'm not afraid of anything happening. I'm just saying if you're going to amend your ordinance to state statute, why wouldn't you amend it to the state statutes that apply to it?
That's a good idea.
It's kind of like if you're going to take the time to do this, why don't we do it right? So it's a question I ask. I'm not afraid of the competition or anything, okay? Not why I'm here.
That's a valid question, and we will definitely look at it. So you may see some changes on the next reading.
Okay, that's fine. And then my other comment would be, is the risk of putting this resort license on a road or up on a mountain and then traveling down a road that is in the winter treacherous at best? Is the risk worth the reward? The reward's approximately $20,000. That's a question for you guys, not for me. And certainly I've done events at your new facility, and I've done events on the mountain, and they scare the hell out of me. And the only way I do them is if I'm in total control of them, and I make sure that people either spend the night or have arrangements to get people down. And I will tell you that Tipsy Taxi or Safe Ride, whatever you want to call it, will not go to the mountain and come back down. It's over their $30 budget. The reason that I know that is we tried to use one last Saturday night. They wouldn't do it, so we gave that person $40 and called him a cab and got him a ride down. So it's just one of those things. It's a question I ask. You all appear to be very sensitive to an alcohol issue in our community, issue or a problem, whatever you want to call it. So it's just something I ask. You know, the issue is not just alcohol, it's the people who drink it and the people who serve it. And if it's all done right, it's great. And when it's not, it's a damn mess. So, just a comment.
No, good questions. I think we're all pondering those in the back of our minds on how this will look when it moves forward, so.
Sure. Be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions?
May I comment?
Go ahead.
I put it out on social media. You wouldn't believe what people were saying. I can't quote a lot of what they were saying, but there are people that absolutely are for it. They say they've never even been on a ski mountain that didn't have a liquor license. Vail has it. Jackson has it. All of them have it. Everywhere they have it. And then other people who are worried that someone abuses it and comes down the hill. It's a problem. Of course, I'm worried about that if they just leave your place, if they abuse it. They can do just as much damage leaving your place as they can the mountain. So when I saw all of that, it was a split decision. So I'll get a crystal ball and I'll let you know what it says.
It'll be damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Because it applies everywhere. And what you hope is that if you have this facility and you have liquor up there, that people are responsible, just like they're responsible when they come to your place. You're hoping they're responsible. I don't know what else we can do.
The difference between Jackson and Steamboat and Vail is you don't drive back down the mountain.
Sometimes you don't. That's true.
Yeah, you stay at their lodges and things like that. So, like I say, it's a concern that I have. And again, if everybody does the job right, and you hope that my bartenders do a great job and that they get somebody a ride, and you hope somebody's smart enough to ask for one, it's just a lot to hope for.
You know, Mike, I always have pondered this whole thing because the state's the one who sells this alcohol. They have a huge warehouse down there, and they want you to buy it by the trainloads, don't they?
Well, they'd appreciate
And
it.
when you get it in your place, you want to sell it by the trainloads. And so there isn't, if we passed an ordinance that said you can only sell so much to somebody, the whole place would be full of people screaming, well, you can't do that to us. We want to sell it by the trainloads. So I think about that, and then I think about the people who buy it by the trainloads, and then they go out, and then Chief Schultz and his people have to go do something to them. So the state's selling it, they're giving it to their liquor dealers, you're selling as much as you can, and now here it comes to us to decide, are we going to give one up there on the mountain to some liquor dealer who wants to sell boatloads of it so he can make money? So it's a quandary. It's a quandary. But Sweeney, who's back there, it's his group that passed this law that brought this on us. We didn't ask for it. But they changed it, and now here it is, and now we're dealing with it. So.
And, you know, stuff runs downhill, and unfortunately, you're at the end of the hill.
Oh, you're kind of there.
Yeah. The only thing I would say to you, Dallas, is, or excuse me, Councilman Laird, in the last 5 years, I would guarantee you that the liquor dealers in this community have made a concerted effort to improve their image, to improve how they sell things. They developed Safe Ride in cooperation with the city. We have funded it. We continue to fund it. We hope it works for forever. So I think we're giving it our best shot. We just need some help from the people who drink it.
I agree with that, and it's a quandary for me, because I go up to Hogadon and I look at it, they've got a beautiful bar built in there. Have you been up there and looked at it?
We've done 2 events up there. It's gorgeous.
So there you go. It's a beautiful bar. It's a beautiful facility. You're selling your liquor up there, and so
It's risk worth.
maybe I'll get a revelation for after.
Maybe you will. There you go.
Charlie, go ahead.
Of course, it's been the concern, and it's not just that there's lodging at those other places, but their lodges are at the bottom of the hill instead of the top of the hill, and we are unique in that respect, so it is a legitimate worry. By the way, it is a beverage center, Councilman, is what I've been told. One other thing that's unique about this is that the city owns the facility, and we could put contingencies on this license that would require the operator to take certain measures. We could mandate tips training at a minimum. We could do other things too if we were given some guidelines that we might follow to increase the safety, Mr. Reed. So, you know, I often wonder why an establishment couldn't have a breathalyzer right at the door that would be available on a voluntary basis. And yes, no bar owner wants to do that because the other bar doesn't have that. But we own this place. We could do that and require an owner to make that available so that someone could blow and say, oops, I better not. We could mandate that they have certain kind of signage. And if it affects their sales, oh well, that's part of the license. It comes with the deal. And so I would appreciate it if maybe the liquor dealers could maybe provide us some assistance with how could we craft this some contingencies in this license to increase the safety, because, I mean, I don't think it's a question of if, I think it's a question of when, as far as when we have that first alcohol-related, well, it won't be the first one from Hogadon, with us serving. But I would appreciate some consultation and some suggestions, because we do have some control over all of this if we exercise it.
Well, and I appreciate that, and certainly there's a number of us in the Liquor Dealers Association that would be more than happy to sit down and meet with anybody. The only thing I would tell you is every one of us would run from that breathalyzer in our establishment, and that's because what if it's not properly calculated? You know, if when that guy blows against it, it shows that he's okay, and then he goes out and gets picked up, and your equipment's a lot better. So that's, and they used to have those little machines where you put a quarter in them and you could do that. Of course, not the world's best, but
Well, whatever,
yeah, but we'd be more than willing to.
case in point, where you folks have the expertise, but whatever you can do to help us ensure safety would be appreciated.
Sure, be more than happy to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the time.
Mr. Sweeney. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Pat Sweeney, 951 North Kimball. Just a couple of comments to follow up on Mr. Reed's comments. Another thing to look at in our current ordinances with a general resort license, we prohibit a resort license from off-premise, not just a resort as far as Hogadon, but hotels with a resort license can't cater. And if Mr. Reed is correct, I didn't check that angle, but with adopting the state code, because I believe the state code that was repealed in to the portion on resort for Hogadon or a ski resort was done in 2015, not this past session. But I believe, if I remember correctly, that our ordinances are a little stiffer on resort in general, like a resort license at a hotel, in that we don't, in Casper, allow a resort license for a hotel to sell off premise or cater. Only a full retail license can do that. So I would ask that that be checked, and if that's the intent of council in this, I would also ask that you think about that one. While I appreciate, Madam Mayor, the effort, my only comment is, and I know that you've already checked this out, and the city attorney has checked this out, but I truly don't believe that your area fits the definition of a conference room or a convention center. So with a broad stroke, even though the liquor division has said they believe that it fits the broad stroke, I disagree with that interpretation, but obviously I believe the liquor division is acquiesced to the city, and that's their right. It just sets quite a precedence in doing that. But that being said, that's a losing battle as far as my comments, but I just wanted to point that out. And lastly, I do think, I'm not a social media person, Your Honor, but my understanding is that it is a close race on social media, but my information tells me that the negatives against it outweigh, not probably by much, as Councilman Laird has pointed out, but the negatives actually outweigh it as far as a family facility. And again, to Mr. Reed's point, if the estimate is $20,000, is it worth that? And lastly, Your Honor, I appreciate Councilman Powell's comments on the restrictions, because that's a great thought, and you do have that ability to place restrictions on that particular license. So, thank you for the time.
Go ahead.
Pat, what is it you think doesn't fit?
Pardon?
What is it about Hogadon you think doesn't fit the resort park?
The conference, the seating for 100 in the general interpretation in the past has been a separate room, and by broad stroke, I'm saying they've obviously interpreted the dining area as all part of the conference facilities.
Thanks.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Just to speak about that, wasn't that repealed, and that's why we're changing it right now, is because A and B of that section of the Wyoming State Statute was removed?
Your Honor, Councilman Morgan, I don't believe that exact portion was repealed because it would, if I'm understanding in, 124401, item 2 is still part of some of the definitions. Small I include a restaurant and convention facility, which convention facility shall seat no less than 100. And then item 3 goes down to part of the repealers.
Yep.
And then item 4 is basically the meat of what we're talking about.
Okay.
So I don't believe that portion, Your Honor, has Councilman Morgan is part of the repealer, but I stand to be corrected.
Okay. And then just to follow up, there's a lot of concern, and I really like what Councilman Powell had mentioned. With the city controlling it, we do have every aspect that we can put into the contract, whether it's the bracelets that you see at some events where you buy a drink, they take that one tab off and you have 2 remaining, so you have 3 drinks for the entire day at that venue, which is a great idea. We could also stop serving maybe 3 hours before closing time. There's a lot of options that we have, and I think that the city of Casper really likes the events that we put on, whether it's the event center or at the municipal golf course that we also have at the 19th hole. They're all responsible in dealing and selling alcohol, and I don't think that'll stop at Hogadon. And so I think we'll put the right people in place to make sure that they do that, in addition to more options to make sure it is safe. We don't have officers up there, so maybe whether that's a partnership with the Sheriff's Department, that was discussed also. There's a lot of options that we have. We haven't looked at all of them, but we'll definitely get to that point.
Councilman Laird.
Did you vote for this change to give a resort license?
I didn't hear.
Did you vote for the change this change of all of these liquor laws?
No, Your Honor, I wasn't in office in 15.
Okay.
I came into office.
That's what I use around here when something happens to them.
Well, no,
I wasn't in office then.
Not trying to evade, but
But I was just curious. But see, when you talk about these things about the size of the building and the liquor commission's already dealt with them, that isn't the problem, is it, Pat? The problem is we're up on a mountain, it's snowy and icy. It's a heck of a drive to get down in the winter, and we're going to serve booze to people who are going to get under the influence. That's what it's all about, and it's legal. Now, the moral issue is another issue. You guys don't legislate morality down there, you probably wouldn't have passed this. But what we're faced with is you have a legal issue. The legislature says you can have a resort license. We're tuning up our ordinances to fall in line with that. And I like what everybody says. You put up signs, you have them blowing a machine. Truthfully, none of that's going to work. Doesn't work. Doesn't work anywhere. People are going to drink however much they want to drink. So if you want to put them up on the sled hill and let them drink, all you can hope is they get down safely. That's about the only power I see that we have, other than we don't put a license up there. I haven't made up my mind on that one yet. $20,000 to the city doesn't seem like that much money in terms of possible safety issues and what have you. But to bandy around sizes of the building and all that, just, to me, that's, I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means about signs and all that. I don't even like the fact that we're owning the license. I don't like that. I would rather, if we do it, I would rather like to see an operator gets it, he gets the license, we have our thumb on his back, and if he can't make the money, we shut it down. If people can't obey the law. But you pass a lot of laws down there and people break them all the time. You know, I can think of a lot of laws you guys pass, people break them all the time. Speeding laws, murder laws, drug laws. It's all this wonderful stuff that we do, but people break those laws. So it's all a nice conversation. Thanks for coming down.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Sweeney? Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, just a follow-up. I'm not questioning the size of the building. I'm questioning the definition of the convention center. But that's already been approved by the State Liquor Division. And so that is a losing argument as far as I'm concerned. One of the key differences, who owns this license? Are you going to lease it to the operator? If that's the concept, then I guess that puts the city off the hook for not owning the license. But I had already given advice. In my opinion, a way around this is to reserve one of the bar grill licenses and make whoever you choose as an operator apply for that bar grill license, and then you guys are totally off the hook. Because a bar grill license can't be transferred, but that's not the route that you've decided to head as a council. So I'm not here to debate the issues, but I have pointed out to folks here that there are other options, in my opinion. So, and I'm not a lawyer, don't claim to be one, don't want to be one. So,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Council discussion. Go ahead.
We're clouding two issues here because we know exactly why this was prompted. So one is the license at Hogadon. One is tailoring the city ordinance to match Wyoming state statute. They're two different things, obviously paired together because of that was the prompting point, the Hogan license. Some of the things that Mr. Reed brought up were the same ones I did as far as the questions I had were the catering options on this thing and what was the intent of that. So when we talk about changing this ordinance, this is for any resort license. And then I think the decision needs to be, are we going to allow them to cater or not? And if not, let's make it clear in there that they can or can't. Does that make sense to everybody? So we got two issues, changing the statute and then giving Hogadon a license, which is not hinging on this vote. Am I right?
Right.
So I think we talk about this ordinance or this ordinance change to fit the definition of any resort license that we would issue to anyone else. And then we can consider whether or not to give one to Hogadon. I just wanted to point out that they seem like the same issue, but they're not. This will apply to everyone in the city. So we can't think about just what we'll do as far as restrictions go on a Hogadon license. We have to think what we want tailored in the law for anybody that's going to apply for one.
Go ahead.
Mr. Manager, this vote just deals with bringing our ordinance in compliance with state law. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, Councilman, that's correct.
So that's all I'm voting on tonight, is bringing our ordinance in compliance. This other big argument, Chris, we're going to have it a little later.
Yeah, we'll enjoy that one.
Yes, we will.
Mayor, Madam Mayor. The only thing, we can restrict state law. Do we want, or do we need to? It doesn't seem like maybe you've even had an opportunity to fully look at it. When we talk about narrowly down to 12.4.401, do we want to talk about catering?
I don't want to talk about it tonight. I just want to deal with getting our ordinances in shape with state law, and then we need to address these other issues.
But we're about to pass it on first reading.
We can still tweak it, though, second and third if we need to.
It says council approve on first reading, though. Doesn't that mean?
No, it's not law until the third reading happens.
All right, so two more.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Dallas. Let's deal with the first issue first, and as most of us are aware, we can put any condition we want on a license. If we don't like people wearing red shirts in there, we can say you can't wear a red shirt in there. Now, whether it's enforceable or not, I don't know, but we can do a lot with
Flag
restrictions.
on it, Bob.
I'm sorry?
Unless it has a flag on it.
There you go. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to back Councilman Walsh that we do need to address it perhaps at the second reading for other resort licenses that are in the city, Courtyard, Marriott, Parkway Plaza, Ramcota, Holiday Inn, those establishments. I think that needs to be done.
So, Mr. City Manager, is that something you guys can have coordinated for us before the second reading comes back around?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, we certainly can have that conversation, and we certainly can bring to you a recommendation in the form of an amendment proposal that would further restrict the opportunity, if you will, for holders of this type of license to cater off premise.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, anyone else? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passes.
You up for taking over a second? Initial question? Okay. Ray's going to take over for just a minute.
Let me get my stuff in order here, sorry. Council will now discuss the resolution for the 15th and Elm Street Improvements Project. Because this is not on the consent agenda, it will be open for discussion by council. Please read the resolution by title only.
A resolution authorizing change order number 4 with Grizzly Excavating and Construction LLC for the 15th Street and Elm Street Improvements Project.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve the resolution just read.
So
Moved.
Moved by Councilman Morgan, seconded by Councilman Hopkins. City Manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. This is a change order request that both staff and the contractor in question are requesting with respect to improvements made to the second phase of the 15th Street and Elm Street Improvements Project. The primary impetus behind this change order request is with regard to a change, if you will, in the gradient pertaining to the cross slope of 15th as it relates to those improvements that were part of the original scope of the project. In this particular circumstance, it was decided that the slope that was designed was too steep, and that indeed would be more helpful and more appropriate for the needs of the community in question to have a slope that was less profound. And so in an effort to try to accommodate that type of better design, if you will, we did suggest these changes that does in fact have a cost impact to the original scope of the project. Secondary to this, however, and certainly as a part of this request, is the issue pertaining to piping that we needed to undersize in order to appropriately fit some of the infrastructure replacements into the area in question as well. The original design did not anticipate piping being located in the areas that we found them, and so accordingly we had to readjust and redesign, if you will, the piping that we ended up using in order for it to fit into the tight space that was not anticipated to be to the extent that we found it. And so with regard to those two issues, that is primarily what is the makeup of the change order that you see before yourself this evening. I should add as a part of this discussion that indeed this does not expand the budget cost of the project, in that these dollars are being driven or being pulled, if you will, from the contingency that was a part of the original contract scope.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Councilman Laird?
Mr. Manager, I hate change orders. Thank you.
Councilman Powell?
Thank you, Your Honor. No one likes change orders, but I think it's important, since it has at times been a hot button topic, for people to realize, as our Public Works Director pointed out in our pre-meeting, that we don't always know what's underground until we start digging it up. And sometimes you find things out that you didn't anticipate were there. And those things still need to be fixed. And sometimes it costs a little extra money to fix that problem that we didn't know was there until we dug it up. And that's the most common reason for a change order, is something of that sort. And there's nothing underhanded about it. There's nothing intentionally increasing the cost for private benefit. It's just dealing with the reality that sometimes things aren't exactly as you thought they would be, and you have to fix it and fix it right. So this is, I think, just an example of that.
Any further discussion? Councilman Morgan?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment. Just, it might come up from commentary that we get at the end of the night, but this is a change order that I'm very familiar with. I actually had the opportunity to go down there to try to wrap my head around what the slope meant coming off the crown, and then how that's even graded and measured and things like that. So I am familiar with this. I wish it could have been caught before the asphalt was down, but it is caught in the pre-stages, so it didn't cost us as much as it could have. So this is a change order that I, of course, support. I'm glad it's in there. And as I mentioned pre-meeting, had we not done this, you know, cars would have got stuck on those sharp curbs in the wintertime when it's icy roads. Cars could be sideswiped. And then people just leaving their driveway, for example, it would have been so steep that cars would either rub their front bumper or their back bumper on it too. So it needed to be done.
Okay. Councilman Laird?
Still hate change orders, even though you make the perfect logical sense, and Mr. Beamer has assured me that it needed to be done. I accept that. I'm going to vote for it, but I still hate them.
Go ahead.
I would only point out that sometimes we have change orders that reduce our costs. And we have had that happen too, so.
Okay, folks. Please cast your vote.
Oh, wait. My button won't work. There it goes.
Please record the vote.
Voting aye, motion passes.
Please read the consent resolutions by title only.
Item 9B1, a resolution authorizing a franchise extension agreement between Pacific Corp doing business as Rocky Mountain Power and the City of Casper, Wyoming. Item 9B2, a resolution approving a Natrona County plat, JBL Business Park. Item 9B3, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Central Wyoming Regional Water System Joint Powers Board for the CPU roof replacement project with the City of Casper and the Regional Water System. Item 9B4, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Playcore Wisconsin, Inc., doing business as Game Time, care of Great Western Recreation for the Paradise Valley Playground Equipment Project. Item 9B5, a resolution authorizing a lease agreement with the Casper Figure Skating Club for the use of the Casper Ice Arena. Item 9B6, a resolution authorizing Form LP3 acceptance certificate from the Wyoming Department of Transportation for construction services related to the CY Avenue and Poplar Street intersection reconstruction project. Item 9B7, a resolution authorizing change order number 2 to the agreement with Shamrock Environmental Corporation for the North Platte River Restoration Project, Wyoming Boulevard Water Treatment Plant Site Project. Item 9B8, a resolution authorizing an agreement with High Plains Construction, Inc. for the Casper Family YMCA Site Improvements Bid Package Number 3 project. And item 9B9, a resolution authorizing the addition of the City of Casper Information Technology Division and City Attorney's Office as components of the city that deal with healthcare information to comply with the requirements of a hybrid entity in accordance with the Federal Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996.
The chair would entertain a motion to adopt the consent resolutions just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Vice Mayor Pacheco. Abstentions or nay votes?
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead.
nay on number 8.
Okay. Any others? Please cast your vote. And please record the vote.
With the note, with the notation of item 9B8, vote with Councilmember Walsh voting nay, motion passes.
Thank you. Now is the time we invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak with the council to come forward. As stated on the first page of the agenda, we ask you the following. Please state your name and address. Direct all questions and comments to the mayor and only the mayor. No personal attacks on staff or council will be tolerated. Council will not respond to personnel matters. These are referred to the city manager. Questions posed by speakers may not be responded to by council members. Presentations will be limited to 5 minutes, and the duplication of speakers will not be allowed, nor will time extensions be permitted. Anyone who wishes to visit with the council can come forward to the lectern. Good evening.
Mr. City Manager, could I ask your assistance, please? I have 11 copies of these, one for you, one for Mr. Chambers, and one for each of council. Thank you, sir. Madam Mayor, good evening, Council. Deb Cheatham. What you will be receiving here is a copy of the transcript of the telephonic oral ruling in Judge Forgey's court on September 7 with regard to my lawsuit against the city in the Public Meetings Act case. I'll wait till you've all had the opportunity to receive a copy. At your last meeting, Mr. Chambers indicated that you didn't want to discuss this matter with me until I've brought you the order. This is the verified transcript of the judge's ruling. He gave it over the phone. I didn't know if your attorney, Ms. Duder, had provided you a copy of this, so I thought I'd do that for you. The order goes is pretty long. It goes through. The judge goes through the reason for the proceeding, reason for the hearing. He goes through a discussion of the facts. He goes through a discussion of the law. And then on page 14, he says, the court finds the council did take action on petitioner's complaint during the executive session on April 14 of 2015 in violation of the Public Meetings Act. He goes on at line 16, the city also admitted in this case that the council had given direction and or guidance to the city manager regarding the petitioner's complaint. Jumping to line 23, this Public Meetings Act required the council to take such action in a public meeting, not privately entering executive session. Because that did not happen in this case, whatever action council took is by law null and void, and any portion of the record of the executive session at issue that reflects what action the council took should be publicly disclosed. I renew my request, Madam Mayor, to know what action the City Council took on my complaint on April 14, 2015, and what direction and guidance it gave the city manager on that date.
So until council's had an opportunity to visit with their council regarding this matter, we really don't have anything we can share just yet.
Madam Mayor, when can I expect a response? I've been waiting 2.5 years. I was forced to spend my own money to pursue this lawsuit. I have the right, and the citizens of this city have the right to know what happened in that meeting. When can I expect your response?
You can keep an eye on our agendas, and when you see that we have a session with our attorney, you'll know then, or we could be happy to reach out to you guys and let you know when it's scheduled.
Madam Mayor, I intend to keep showing up until you tell me what happened, and I will consult my attorney to find out how this order can be enforced.
Please do.
Thank you.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
Ms. Cheatham, what I understand is, I read that previous to this, and you are entitled to that. Now, the procedural part, there's an order that your lawyer has drawn up, and I've read a copy of that, and it hasn't been signed by either your lawyer or Ms. Studer. And in the order, it says it incorporates these findings. And so they both have to sign it, and they submit it to the judge. And what it says is, then the city has 10 days after that order is signed to produce to you that information. So once that order gets signed by all these parties, then the next step would be whether the city decides to appeal it or not, or give you the information. I hope you get the information, but you can't get it until the order gets signed.
I will look for the order.
Bruce will tell you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to council? Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Wayne Hiley, 4210 Deer Run, Casper. Good evening, Your Honor, Mayor Humphreys, and other members of the council. It's my pleasure this evening to address you on behalf of the 4 active Rotary Clubs of Casper. As you are likely aware, Rotary is an international service organization dedicated to improving the lives of others, and Rotarians focus their service efforts on peace and conflict resolution, disease prevention and treatment, water and sanitation, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, and economic and community development. Here in Casper, our Rotary clubs have decided to join forces in completing a multi-club project that supported Casper's community development efforts in the Old Yellowstone District. Through the generous support of many of our civic-minded individuals and businesses, Rotary has purchased and installed a 4-faced post clock, benches, and a flower garden along the street front by the David Street Station. We would like to invite you and interested members of the public to join us this Thursday night at 7 p.m. for a formal dedication ceremony for this clock and installation. I wanted to point out that the City of Casper has been an excellent supporting partner in permitting this project and in facilitating its completion. No city money went into the project, but the city staff was excellent to work with, and it was a pleasure to complete this project. Anyhow, on behalf of the Rotarians, I'd extend our appreciation to the city management and staff, and hope that you would join us this Thursday evening at 7 o'clock for the formal dedication of the clock.
Thank you, and good work you did. Does anyone on council have a question, comment?
I just wondered if the Kiwanians were involved somewhere. I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding.
Not on this one.
Okay.
I would just say it looks cool.
It does look cool. And we're glad you're here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. So hopefully we'll see you Thursday night.
Well, I plan to be there, and I understand the weather is going to be excellent.
80s? Thank you. Anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to council? Good evening.
My name is Mileage Mike, 742 North Jefferson. I just wanted to, we have a small problem and it's getting worse and worse. I'm with Wyoming Central Abate, and we hold 2 major parades a year. One is for the Motorcycle Awareness and Safety Parade. The other one is the Toy Run, which is this Saturday. These parades we've been doing since 1982. We are getting larger and larger with the parades. The safety comes into mind on making sure that the other traffic backs off until that parade is done. We had one parade that was over 600 bikes 3 years ago, I think it was. But at this late parade here, it's usually 100 to 300 bikes. I've been dealing with Officer Scott Jones on getting patrol down there for those parades, and it's getting harder and harder and harder to get any help. Last toy parade, we didn't have any. We had 2 very, very near accidents. The public don't like to stop for something that's that long.
So what?
Last year, he suggested that I get with him earlier, so that he would have some prior knowledge of and that was the only requirement. The next year, it was something different. Now it's the money situation. I just wanted to keep going with Officer Jones and not get anyone else involved in this. But I really don't see how the city cannot get involved and to help out for a half an hour, whatever. He suggests the parade is maybe a bit long, and so we could even shorten the parades or whatever. But anywhere from a half an hour to 3/4 of an hour, I don't figure that's long.
Let us connect you to the two individuals, I think, that can kind of get the ball rolling to get you the help that you need. So I'm assuming you, Mr. City Manager, and then maybe Mr. Police Chief. Can you leave your contact information with the city manager so that they can reach out to you and see what we can do to help?
Sure.
And remind me your motorcycle nickname.
Mileage.
Mileage, that's right. I couldn't think of it. I knew it was going to come to me, but yeah.
He
So-
rides day, night, winter, everywhere.
I believe it.
Mike Harrison, he's mileage, and he's a good guy. What he's trying to do is a good thing.
Mhm.
Hope you get it working out, man.
Okay, do you have a piece of paper?
I got some cards.
Oh, perfect.
Out on the bike, and I'll bring some in.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to council? Good evening, sir.
Madam Mayor and council members, Keith Goodenough, 333 South Saconee. I have a few items to comment on. For one, I haven't been here since the eclipse happened, and I'd just like to congratulate all the people that actively participated in making that such a success. And there was a lot of great music from Casper bands that weekend, and I think that helped calm everybody down because they were listening to all the good music. Right, Mr. Chambers? The second thing I had to comment on was that the city of Casper allowed a private entity the permission to use the Casper Wyosity trademark, I guess you'd call it, on a mailing. And this is the business that provides sewer line insurance or a warranty. And my comment is that when people get this mailing, it has only the Wyosity brand on the front. It's got a bigger brand on the top of the letterhead. And if you read down through this, it makes reference to the city of Casper and the city of Casper. And you get down to the finer print, and that's when it tells you it's a private entity. And I guess my comment is that if you weren't reading this very closely, you would think this was a effort by the city of Casper to get you to get sewer line insurance. And I think this is the only time the city has allowed a private company to use that logo. So I just wanted to bring that up in case you didn't realize the council had done this. This was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And so I think it's a little misleading is why I bring it up to you. The next thing has to do with a personnel matter, and I won't go into details, but it has to do with the city contracting with Attorney Judy Studer for legal assistance. And I would just encourage you to have a serious discussion if you go outside for legal counsel again about finding a different attorney. Because I sat through all of the Craig Hedquist affair. It was long and drawn out, and there was a lot of different aspects to that. But my main thought was that certainly there's an attorney in town that could give better advice to the city council if you had to go outside the city attorney's office. I wanted to comment on the Midwest Street project, and I know last time it was said that was going to be paid for with 1 cent money. And I don't know if you keep track of how that cycle works, but I believe the latest 1 cent vote was in November of 14. The funding cycle starts in the following March, I believe. So March of 15 goes to March of 2020. So it's a 4-year period, and of course it's all estimates as to how much that 1 cent tax is going to bring in. And of course the estimates on the prior cycle were way under, so the city council ended up with 24 million extra dollars. I think it's probably safe to say that this time the estimates are going to be lower, and so you're going to have to decide how you're going to redistribute the 1 cent money when you have less to work with than you initially estimated. And then you're going to bring the Midwest project in and pay for it with 1 cent money. So I just point that out so that the citizens know somebody's going to have to get shorted somewhere according to the initial estimates. Of course, it's split between the city and private nonprofits, so I'm sure you're working on that, but I wanted to bring that up. Tonight you voted to extend the electricity bill franchise agreement, and I wanted to bring up that franchise fee that's 4% now, it was 3%, it's now 4%. That's the money that's funding CADA now from the city. I believe it's $400,000 a year. They've gotten about 20 million bucks since they were created, and I doubt if any of you can name 20 businesses that were brought to Casper by CADA, which would make it $1 million a business. So I know you've been looking at that a little bit, but I'd like to encourage you to look closer. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask where'd the 20 million bucks go. And my final comment is about the use of the council chambers again. There's some new people here. The Cheyenne Council uses their chamber for more events than we do. I think it would be worthwhile for you to look into how they do that. You're talking about policing, community policing. Tomorrow morning there's going to be a meeting. If the meeting was here, you'd reach a lot more people. Talking about teen outreach. If you had the meeting in here, so many teens are into electronic media, seems like you'd reach a lot more people by being able to use the chambers for more things. And with that, I will bid you adieu.
Thank you. Good evening.
Your Honor, didn't we discussed that logo on that bill at one point, didn't we? What was the outcome?
Obviously to put it on there.
I mean, I thought we were talking, I remember talking about wanting to not allow them to do that at one point.
We might have to mull that over.
It's not copyrighted, though.
What's that?
It is.
Anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to council? Okay, with there being nobody else to speak, I will go around the table and I will start with Councilman Hopkins.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Walsh.
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
Councilman Powell.
Thank you, Your Honor. I agree with former Councilman Goodenough that the sewer insurance program is something that we should look at again, because I do think it appears that we sponsor it. And it's been a while, but I actually created a spreadsheet when it was first proposed, and the anticipated premiums were many times more than the anticipated claims. And I have concerns about it, and I appreciate him bringing it back to our attention.
Okay. Councilwoman Huckabee is doing well and resting at home, so. Councilman Laird.
Yeah, I agree with former Councilman Goodenough as well. I think that's a very misleading entity, and I think we should change that. I got that the first time I got that, and I thought, well, the city's offering insurance. And I'm like a lot of people, I get in a hurry, I don't read the whole thing. And then finally, when I found out what it was and what's been going on, I hope our manager ends that problem. I always appreciate your comments, Mr. Goodenough. I think that they're insightful, and they at least focus, for at least a new person like myself, attention on certain things that we need to give attention to. One of the things I was thinking, Council, and I just wanted to mention it tonight, was, and it's actually something that Councilman Walsh has mentioned from time to time about, how much he likes meetings. And so, do we need more than 2 meetings a month to get all of our business done? One big wrestling match in the other room, and then one scripted match in here. I'm just throwing that out. I don't know how you all may feel about 2 meetings a month. Always takes a new guy to bring something different up. So I'm just bringing it up for your thought. The more I have thought about this Hogadon thing, I owned a liquor license once many years ago, and it was the Wonder Bar. Myself and 4 or 5 other guys. We owned it in 1985, and opening night, a guy fell down the stairs, broke his neck, and passed away. It was a very sad thing because he had a family and everything. And you're just going, this could happen 2 or 3 more nights in a row. And I couldn't get out of that business fast enough. I appreciate our liquor dealers and the stress and strain, and I know Mike Reed's, a very intelligent guy and understands these things. I just don't know what we should do with that. I'm almost thinking if we do anything, we should grant that resort license to an operator and not have it in our names, where then it's an individual that is subject to our laws, but it's just a thought I'm having. I mean, I know it's something we have to kick around. And I do agree with the questions of is $20,000 worth it, really, overall. I mean, if it was $200,000, it's one thing. And it is really a split out there on the media, and people are getting pounding on each other more on that than they do with Trump and the rest of the world almost. I was really surprised. But I listened to it because I think they pretty much say what they want sometimes, don't they, Jesse? You found that out. So my overall feeling too is I think that our meetings, and one of the reasons I want that in that other room, why I wanted that to be a videoed meeting, is so our people can see what we're doing. Truthfully, I would like to see no meeting held secretly at all. We have to follow the law, however, with these executive meetings, and there's a part of me that would like to see Pat Sweeney and a couple of people revoke that rule, revoke that statute. I don't think it serves any purpose in today's society. I think we're elected by the citizens. We're in charge of their money. We're in charge of their buildings. We're in charge of their business. And if people come to work here like we all do, we need to be accountable. Everybody from the manager and the mayor down to everybody who works here. And so I would just like to have that in our minds and hearts with respect to what we do here. I think we should follow the law. I don't think we should look for ways around the law. I know sometimes what happens, we want to protect our employees, we want to be kind to our employees, but we also have to protect our citizens and be kind to our citizens and not be harsh with people. We have to follow the law. And so I don't know really how better to say that. I think Charlie could probably say it a lot better than I could. I've heard him say it a couple times. He gets close occasionally. But I don't want to be arguing with our citizens about what goes on in meetings. I wasn't here when this meeting happened. It's the subject of this lawsuit. I just don't want to be sued while I'm on this. I don't want a council sued when I'm on this council. I'll feel a little stupid if I am, because I should be able to catch it before it happens. And so So I'm just saying that, Mr. Manager. That's how I feel. And I still hate change orders, though. Thank you.
There are valid reasons for executive session. I think executive sessions are needed sometimes. Not everything needs to be broadcast, especially when it comes to personnel matters. I don't think anybody would want their employers broadcasting how their employers discipline them over the public venue. So executive sessions are a necessity sometimes, as are change orders. Sometimes. I agree that we need to follow the law and use executive sessions responsibly. I don't think that this council or any previous council was malicious or wanted to go break the law or felt they were breaking any laws in the past. So we'll see what happens with this case, but there is a reason for them, and there is a necessity for them at times. That's all I got.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a busy October for me. Also, I don't know if you read the New York Times. I was in the New York Times this last Sunday.
You were?
Kind of interesting.
You didn't
Yeah.
tell me.
Just a small town councilman here. Babyface councilman, that's what they put.
that.
Can you believe they put that?
I agree with
That's
that,
what they
too.
printed. Babyface 31-year-old councilman.
That's
Anyways,
official
yeah, no, it's a side thing that I have going on, but yeah, busy month. Tomorrow is National Coffee with a Cop Day, so tomorrow at 7:30 in the morning, hopefully you can take that opportunity at Crescent Moon, Java Jitters, Blue Ridge, and the Poorhouse. I think I'm going to go to the one that's most convenient to me. But I'm glad they're doing that. Like I said earlier, the momentum that's happened since the eclipse, it's been such a positive impact in our community. Positive interactions with our police officers, seeing them walk the streets and interact with everybody. They're part of this community. So to see that initiative from Interim Chief Schultz bring that to the department and say, this is our community, we're part of it, this is where we live, this is where we want to live, this is what we want to do is serve our community. I think it's great. So I'm glad that they're doing that, and most importantly, taking part in National Coffee with a Cop. It's good to see the rotary clock come to David Street Station. Initially seeing it with Mr. Hiley on paper, it's even better with that backdrop. So thank you. I appreciate everything that you've done and all the other members of the Rotary Club. In terms of the sewer line, it is interesting, but I believe the reason why they are using that logo is because it's a partnership. That's the only way that we can actually provide that service is with the National League of Cities. And at one point when we made that contract, the city of Casper could ask for a royalty for every subscriber. The city of Casper would get a percentage. The city of Casper opted not to, and by doing so, they made that a lot cheaper, I guess, of service to provide to citizens. And with that, there's an issue, and I understand there are claims, but they do pay the claims, and doing some research into that, they've only denied, I think, 2 or 3 of those claims of the 556 that have been brought up, and that was as of June 20th. And of those claims paid was $297,243.75, and there are 2,251 people in the city of Casper that are currently enrolled in that sewer replacement program. I don't think we have any control over the Wasity logo. I don't think people see the logo and immediately think that that's a city of Casper type thing. If they do, maybe the realty company that's here in town can sell our property, since the city of Casper has their own realtors now. But it's something to think about. Other businesses are using them, private businesses. And shorting 1-cent funds, yes, we are shorting 1-cent funds and projects. Unfortunately, that's our stormwater treatment. Traditionally, we've used the stormwater. We funded $300,000 to $600,000 a year with 1-cent funds. More recently, we haven't, and that's what brought up a earlier work session of trying to get it passed where we can not put it on a ballot and just have a discussion between council. But I think we should just be more responsible with how we use our 1-cent funds, and perhaps say maybe less $6 million projects, more focus on stormwater, water treatment plants, bell fills, e-waste, fun stuff like that. And more meetings, I kind of like the idea of more meetings. I know Councilman Walsh probably wants to punch me in the face for that. But, you know, there are a lot of items that we have upcoming, and whether it's a work session, but we're scheduled all the way out into January, and we haven't touched the majority of them. There's a lot of people on this council that are really ambitious and want to get a lot of things done. Maybe until then, we can shorten it to what we have now, or maybe we could just have a longer, maybe an all-day Saturday type thing. I don't know. And no Tuesdays, just Saturdays. But I do like the idea just because there's a lot of things that I would like to address. There's a lot of things that I would like to see done a lot faster than next month, for example. So it's a good idea. I'm sure not everybody's on board. Thank you.
Just a couple quick things. A couple of our young kids. Believe it or not, gentlemen, we actually decided to do this on purpose. We all ran on purpose to be up here. And but a part of it is that you guys come here for a reason to, obviously for scouts and being a part of that and seeing what this is about and what it looks like. It's not always pretty and can be boring sometimes. You guys are like, yes, it is. But this is how government happens, and this is how it works. And so thank you for coming out here, guys, and being a part of that and doing that. So, which is my segue into Katie did a nice piece on Monday about the youth town hall meeting that we'll be having at Metro that I'm doing with the Youth Empowerment Council, which is going to be next Thursday, October 12th at 7 o'clock. And so we're busily putting that together and hoping for a good turnout for that. So young people can have a voice to do that. And so if you're middle school to high school, even if you're a little under that, come on over to Metro, get a cup of coffee with us, come and learn a little bit about the city, but also more importantly, wanting to come and have a conversation to say this is what Casper needs. And for us, for young people, because a lot of the time young people's voice gets muted, I believe, and we give them a bad rap. Frankly, I believe they're a lot wiser than us sometimes, and we can learn a lot from them. So hopefully you'll come out. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so I think we missed one of the youngsters in torturing them up front. So the one behind you, we didn't get to torture you, right? Come on up here.
If you're selling popcorn, can you bring some popcorn?
Come on up.
Pays to come in last.
Have a seat in my chair. Okay, so pull up to the desk. And I'm going to read a little bit here, but then you're going to get to handle the gavel, because that's the best part. So are you ready for this?
Sure.
Do you want to read a little bit of this too?
Fine.
Okay. The next meetings of the City Council will be a work session to be held at 4:30 p.m. Tuesday, October 10th, 2017 in the Council's meeting room, and a regular Council meeting to be held at 6 p.m. Tuesday, October 17th, 2017 in the Council chambers. So now you say the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Morgan. Oh, moved by Councilman Laird, seconded by Councilman Johnson. Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
All members voting aye, motion passes.
Okay, so now you're going to say this meeting is adjourned and then bang the gavel.
This meeting is adjourned.
Perfect.
Nice job.
What do you think?